Hey there, fight fans. I'm Flyin Brian J here on behalf of SB Nation Combat, which includes amazing websites like MMA Mania, Bloody Elbow, and others. MMA Nation's classic shows like the 6th Round, MMA Vivisection, The Care Don't Care, If I Did It, and the rest are all on the move, but don't worry, our shows will continue to be available on SoundCloud and iTunes. Search MMA Nation on either podcast platform and be sure to click subscribe while you are there. So the goal for this post-fight show is to go over all of the action that just happened at UFC 228 with you, the live viewers, as my co-host. My first question to you, as always, is what post-fight rating, 1 to 5, would you give this entire night of fights from start to finish? If you don't want spoilers, you better hit the bricks, because we're about to get in it real deep. We're going to get in with the main event, what happened there, and then we're going to get into the WTF of the card. There are quite a few of them. Then followed by that, we will go over the rest of this event. At the very end, we'll give our post-fight bonuses, and there are a ton of post-fight bonuses that could possibly be given out. Joe Lav, where's Kid Nate and them? So my name's Flyin Brian J. I'm going to be here on this channel doing post-fight shows from now on. The MMA Nation's classic shows are on the move. The 6th Round post-fight show, the Vivisection, Care Don't Care, If I Did It, all of those, they're still going to be available on the MMA Nation SoundCloud and iTunes. So search for MMA Nation there and be sure to subscribe while you were there. So the main event of the evening, featuring Tyron, the Chosen One Woodley, and Darren Till, just culminated, and my post-fight rating for this entire fight card would be a 5 out of 5. Uncle Hank says he would give it a 5, not counting the judges. Jeffrey James says a 3.9. No one else is weighing in. So we did a pre-fight show on the MMA Mania Twitch channel, and my grade, along with the other viewers, the pre-fight rating was a 3.5. So I think this fight card way exceeded our expectations, which is freaking phenomenal. Let's talk about what... Ooh, Mr. Leary gave it a 10 out of 5. Wow, he really loved this fight card. Wop says Woodley has been boring before, but let's not pretend like he wasn't. This was just an exciting one. Marbs 204, no, I'm not Zane Simon. My name's Flyin Brian J. Thank you for being here. I'm not going to say that too many more times. Let's talk about this fight card. In the main event of the evening, Tyron, the Chosen One Woodley, finished Darren, the Gorilla Till, with a Darce choke at 4:19 of round number 2 to keep his UFC welterweight title around his waist. This is, I believe, his 4th consecutive title defense. He reiterated to us that he is the best welterweight to ever do the damn thing, and if he keeps doing things like this, it's his 4th consecutive title. 4th consecutive defense. He kept the belt with the draw against Stephen Thompson at UFC 205 back in 2016. Now he has 3 consecutive defenses where he won. The first finish that he's had since Robbie Lawler in 2001, and it's the first submission victory in his entire UFC career. And after he finished Darren Till with that Darce choke in the 2nd round, his coach awarded him with a black belt. So he got another gold belt wrapped around his waist by Dana White, and then his coach also gave him a black belt. So it was a huge day for Tyron Woodley. How did he set up that Darce choke? Darren Till came in with like a shovel uppercut with his lead hand. He came with a shovel uppercut, and it was not his lead hand, but he came in with that. And Tyron pulled away from it and then came in with the right behind it, sent Till to the floor, got on top of him, and was raining down some really vicious elbows. And there was a long stretch of time where Daniel Cormier, one of the ringside announcers and also the double champ, was saying, Till's done, it's over, it's over, it's over. And Rogan's like, no, he's still moving, he's still defending and everything. And he did defend some of the ground and pound pretty well, but he kept this overhook over the arm that just really set up the Darce choke to be sunk in from Tyron Woodley. In the post-fight interview, Rogan was really pressing Tyron Woodley, what's next for you? Who do you want next? What's next for you? At one time he said that he's got a single coming out next week with Wiz Khalifa. Also, Tyron Woodley wished Wiz Khalifa a happy birthday. He also wished his own son, whose name must be Darren, a happy birthday as well. And then Rogan tried to press him for who he wants to fight next, and he said, I don't want to call anybody out. Whenever I call somebody out, it doesn't seem to get the reaction that I want, so I'm not going to call anybody out. You might remember he called out He called out Michael Bisping, and people were like, man, we don't really care about that fight. He called out GSP, and people were like, stop calling for the money fights, Tyron Woodley. So I guess he's just done calling out people. And I think clearly what's next for Tyron Woodley should be Colby Covington. I know that Marty Usman, Kamaru Usman, was there yesterday for the weigh-ins. He weighed in. He was also there at the fights tonight. He had a funny little face-off with Shevchenko when they put the camera on him. I know he was there for that. But Colby Covington was the interim champion. I know they took the belt away from him because he was injured and couldn't fight on this card. But still, he earned the right, I think, to have a legitimate title shot. And I think that's what should be next for Tyron Woodley, is Colby Covington. Let's go to some of your comments, guys. This is going to be new to me. This is my first time on this channel, as you might know. No, I am not Zane Simon. I appreciate you for sticking around with me, even though I'm not him. But I want to use you as my co-host. I'm going to bounce ideas off you as we go. Ava Ortega said his son is Darren Stewart. I don't think that's true. Moreno de Jonh says rematch of this fight. Oh, yeah. Random one. We're going to get into our WTFs of the card in a moment. I want to get the rest of your comments on the main event before we get into the WTF, but what you just said is one. Senpai says Eddie Mercado and Zane Simon can't be replaced. I'm sorry, dudes. I don't want to replace them. I'm just here, you know, doing my thing. Joe Caraciolo says the fight came too early for Till. He only beat Wonder Boy, and that was a controversial decision. Hell me, he says. Thanks, Frosty. I agree. So last night I went to the LFA event that was in Kearney, Nebraska, and I was talking to some of the people there. And everybody that I talk to, if they know that I do this type of thing as a hobby, basically, they'll ask me, you know, who am I picking to win? And I said, well, you know, I find it odd that Darren Till is the favorite. He beat Cowboy Cerrone, who should not have been. I mean, he had some success at 170 pounds, did Cerrone. But, man, he looked undersized against Darren Till. And so, in hindsight, that win didn't look that impressive to me for Darren Till over Cowboy Cerrone. And then I actually scored Stephen Thompson versus Darren Till for Thompson. So I didn't think he was really coming off a victory here. Also, like I said, Colby Covington was the rightful person to be in the spot fighting Tyron Woodley tonight. I didn't know that Darren Till necessarily deserved to be in the position, and I definitely didn't think that he deserved to be the favorite in this fight. No, I didn't put money on Tyron Woodley. Hindsight, I should have, because Tyron Woodley has been the underdog the last three title defenses. Or no, 3 out of the last 4 title defenses. And look at that. He's won all 4 of them. When are we going to stop doubting Tyron Woodley? Oh, yeah. Thanks, Zane. Zane Simon and Eddie Mercado are going to still have the 6th round post-fight show. They're going to be available on the MMA Nation, iTunes, and SoundCloud feed. They're going to be released on Mondays, or Zane says tomorrow. The vlogs are coming to more podcasts. So subscribe to MMA Nation on iTunes and SoundCloud. So there you go. I, too, hope to get like the video that I'm doing onto a podcast format, but I haven't talked to them about that yet. Life's as crazy as Diego Sanchez for me right now. But what's next for Tyron Woodley? We always go over that. I think it's got to be Chaos Colby Covington. Let's go over the WTF of the card. I have 5 possibilities. I have 5 possibilities for the WTF of the card. The first one was already mentioned in the chat. Big Dan Miragliotta separated the main event competitors in the first round way too quickly, in my opinion. The same sequence that ended the fight, or brought the end of the fight closer to us, when Darren Till, he rushed in, Woodley pulled away, and then hit Darren Till and dropped him at the end, of course. Tyron Woodley got double underhooks on Darren Till and pushed him up against the fence, and he was going to be working for a body lock takedown, maybe just rough up Darren Till's legs a little bit. Darren Till did a good job with the double whizzer and then held Tyron Woodley really tight, so Woodley couldn't do much. But it was only like maybe 15 seconds, and Big Dan was like, all right, stop. Let's get out of here. Then another thing happened. Similar, Tyron Woodley had Till pressed up against the fence. Till searched for an underhook, and then he reversed, put Woodley up against the fence, and then like 5 seconds later, Big Dan was like, all right, stop, separate, let's get going. Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier were talking about how that was bad, and that actually hurt Tyron Woodley. And we don't know, of course, it didn't actually play out, but the way that it ended up actually going down really was in favor of Tyron Woodley, obviously, with that big power. What's next for Darren Till? You could say if Colby Covington fights for the belt next, I could see Till versus Usman, but that could be killing another contender right away. So even though Till didn't get knocked out, the official result is a submission. I still, when people get their bell rung like Darren Till did, and then he ate a ton of elbows from the ground and pound from the bottom, I like to see these guys take a little bit of time off. So I would say let's not think about what's next for Darren Till. What's next for him should be recoup his brain. He took a lot of damage here. He's probably going to get a medical suspension anyway. Let's give him some time off. Then when he comes back, we can see how the title picture has shaken out. Woodley said that he's been away from competing for 14 months. So he's glad to be back. Maybe he'll become active again at the end of 2018, perhaps beginning of 2019. But I don't think we should talk about what's next for Darren Till. Other WTFs of the card. We can talk about something that happened way earlier. Joe Rogan said that Diego Sanchez could have crazy classes and there would be a lot of people in attendance. And then when Diego fought Craig White on the Fight Pass prelims, as soon as it started, Diego sprinted right at Craig White and then was hitting him with a bunch of crazy ground and pound. Continuing on the what the fuck. Diego Sanchez, after he defeated Craig White via decision, right? What is it? Wait a second. Yeah, unanimous decision, 30-27 across the board. I actually gave him 30-25 because Craig White wasn't doing anything. Diego Sanchez, after the post-fight interview, gave the discount double check sign and said, I'm coming for that belt. Bro, what the fuck? Someone's got to tell Diego Sanchez to calm it down with the crazy. We love it a little bit, but Diego, you beat a guy who's now 0-2 in the UFC. The only reason he was here is because Neil Magny needed a short notice opponent in Europe. Yeah, Diego, slow your roll. I'm in a group chat with Sean Sheehan from Severe MMA, and he said that if we're going to keep Diego Sanchez fighting, and he wants to keep fighting top guys or whatever, we should have him fight BJ Penn after BJ Penn fights Ryan Hall or something. But like the next fight for Diego Sanchez should be a rematch with BJ Penn because they fought in 2009. BJ Penn won to retain the lightweight title, and it was a doctor stoppage in the 5th round. But yeah, what the fuck, Diego Sanchez. Continuing down the WTF list, and then we'll get back to the co-main event and talk about that one. Number three WTF was a judge for Carla Esparza versus Tatianna Suarez. Scored the first round 10-8 in favor of Carla Esparza. The judge was Daniel Matheson. Carla Esparza, he later admitted that it was a mistake and he meant to be a 10-8 round for Tatianna Suarez. And I'm going to use the WTFs as a way to talk about that fight. So let's talk about Tatianna Suarez versus Carla, the Cookie Monster, Esparza. At the very beginning of that fight, Tatianna went in for a double leg takedown, which Carla hit a pretty good sprawl on. But then Suarez pushed her up against the fence, got a body lock takedown, or got a body lock, and then tripped Esparza to the mat. Similar to what Tyron Woodley was doing to Darren Till with the elbows, Suarez was really brutalizing Esparza with some elbows from the top position. She really messed up the facial structure of Carla Esparza from inside the guard. Suarez was even doing the Khabib Nurmagomedov thing, which the commentators like to talk about, which is grabbing the wrist control of Carla, like putting her arm behind her back and then just beating her up with the other hand so she couldn't block it on that side. Really, really impressive ground and pound from Tatianna Suarez. Yeah, Yeah, there were a ton of times when Esparza would get back to her feet, but then Suarez would just pick her up and put her right back down. At the beginning of the second round, Suarez got in on a single leg and had Carla down in less than 30 seconds and then continued to pound on her. And Suarez got the TKO stoppage late in round number 3 at 4:33 of that round. And Daniel Cormier, Joe Rogan were calling for either Suarez to get a title shot against Thug Rose or perhaps a fight against Yann Jacek. And both options are really good. We're going to talk about what's next for Tatianna Suarez shortly. I've got something else that's going to lead us into that. But continuing down the path of the WTF, the card, got a couple more. If you guys got some, let me know. I'll read them out loud. Tonight we had 2 back mount knee bars. Insanity. What the F? There had only been one in the history of the UFC before tonight, and then 2 of them happened on one card. That's a WTF, but I won't talk about those fights right yet. Let's talk about the co-main event of the evening, which was a women's strawweight fight between Jessica Bate-Estaca Andrade and Karolina Kowalkiewicz, depending on if you want to use Joe Rogan's pronunciation or John Anik's pronunciation. So, basically, thanks for subscribing, Mike Lax23. I appreciate it, my dude. Jessica Andrade came out like Joe Rogan said, like Vanderlei Silva. I always think of her as the woman's strawweight version of John Lineker. I mean, she comes out just ripping hooks. You know, she'll go hook, hook, body, right hook to the body, left hook up high, just a ton of hooks. So it's like a lead hook and a wide right, but everything landed. She hurt Kowalkiewicz right away. Karolina was like backpedaling up to the fence with her eyes wide, looking scared, just moments into this bout. And Karolina did a decent job of not just backing to the fence, because then she would have got finished earlier. She circled. She did a decent job circling, but it was the finishing sequence. Jessica threw a jab, and then another jab that was tighter. They got closer, so she was a jab at range, and then the second jab she was in tighter, so she didn't get full extension on her arm, and then came with the wide right up top, right on the jawbone of Kowalkiewicz, and put her down, and then did the walk-off knockout thing similar to Mark the Super Samoan Hunt. It was incredible. The follow-up shots were not necessary. You could already see before the finish actually happened that Karolina was not going to be in this fight. There were times when Karolina caught Andrade with a couple of right straights, and we're like, okay, maybe she's going to come back into this. But then Jessica would just hit her with another hook, and then Karolina, you know, would get kind of glossy-eyed again and fall backward. And like, okay, all right. Karolina probably had 2 good strikes. In fact, we could look at the stats. 39-25, actually, are not the official significant strikes landed, but it's a lot closer than it felt. Anyway, Jessica Andrade, huge knockout. The commentators say we don't see this very often, especially in 115-pound women's fights, where like a female fighter does a one-punch knockout, and then especially a Mark Hunt type of walk-off knockout. In the post-fight interview, Andrade called out Thug Rose Namajunas for UFC 232, December 29th. I think it's in Brazil, I believe. I need to check that. No, it's at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, so I was wrong. She just commented that it's featuring 2 Brazilian titles right now because the main event is Amanda Nunes against Chris Cyborg Justino, and of course they are both champions. So she wants to be the co-main event to that against Thug Rose Namajunas, and I think that sounds just fine. Let's go with that, and that's why, even though Tatianna Suarez did call out Thug Rose for a title shot after her performance, I don't think Suarez is going to get it. I would give the title shot to Jessica Andrade, and then I would pair Tatianna Suarez with Yann Jacek, and hell, put them on the same card, whatever. I think that even though Yann Jacek has really good takedown defense, I might pick Tatianna Suarez the beater. I think Tatianna is a future champion. I'd love to see her fight Jessica Andrade, but that would kill 2 contenders right now for Thug Rose. So I think we give Bate-Estaca to Thug, and Yann Jacek have her fight against Tatianna Suarez. As I've said before, the 6th round post-fight show with Zane Simon will air tomorrow, and then you can find it on iTunes and SoundCloud by searching MMA Nation on Monday. So there you go. Let's continue on with this fight card. When is the post-fight press conference? Says Snow Guy. Should be happening soon, but over on the UFC's Facebook page. One WTF of the card, which I haven't really mentioned yet, is 8 out of 9 of the last fights were finishes. So when we get to the portion where we're going to give out our post-fight bonuses, wow, we have our work cut out for us. I would just give them each like an extra 20 or something. But we'll try to get to the bottom of who we actually think deserves the post-fight bonuses. Somebody who deserves a post-fight bonus is one of the two men. Oh, Rob Amon, thanks for joining, buddy. You here with the battle axe to cut some people from the roster? Rob Amon's one of my usuals. Zabit Magomedsharipov versus Brandon Davis. First round was actually rather close. Zabit was able to score a takedown late in the first round to like seal it on my scorecard. Didn't end up mattering though because Zabit got the knee bar from back mount. But Brandon Davis was doing some decent things on the feet. He was even able to say, no, 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 not today. Dikembe Mutombo, Magomedsharipov first attempt of the like skip in and then try to do the trip takedown with his like the same side foot. So his foot on Davis's right foot. You know, he skips in and then tries to trip him down, like kind of clothesline him, bring him to the ground type of thing. Davis was able to ward off that first attempt. And on the feet, Brandon Davis landed a pretty good uppercut on Magomedsharipov when Zabit when he came in. And I was like, oh shit, maybe Zabit as a minus 1,200 favorite is going to lose here. That'd be insanity. But the second round, Zabit was able to get in that skipping and then trip takedown, got Davis to the ground. Davis gave up, went to get to his feet. He was just trying to stand straight up, kind of like Derek the Black Beast Lewis does. He doesn't use a ton of technique, just like he just gets up. But nobody can really stop Derek Lewis. Brandon Davis got stopped by the double hooks with the legs from Magomedsharipov. And then Zabit searched for the rear naked choke. He had the arm under there for a second, but he couldn't get the other hand around it because Davis was doing a good job with wrist control. But because Zabit is so long, and we'll talk about the same scenario with Aljamain Sterling, he was able to reach under when Davis was kind of standing with a wide base, trying to get to his feet and shake Zabit off over the top. Zabit just reached underneath, grabbed the left leg of Davis, and then rolled so that Zabit would have his own back on the canvas, and he could get maximum extension on the knee bar of Davis. Davis tried to hold off as long as he could before he had to tap, but you could see his leg muscles and his tendons behind his knee, fully extending, and he was forced to tap. Maybe we wouldn't think of this as a huge performance from Zabit because he was, a minus 1,200 favorite. Brandon Davis came in here on short notice. Nobody really gave him a chance to win. But I was impressed with Magomedsharipov, and I'm excited to see what's next for him, what's in the future for him. And he called out Chad Money Mendez in his post-fight interview. And another WTF we could say is he said, Chad Mendez, where you at? Or something. And then the translator said, Chad Mendez, where you at? We heard him. We heard Zabit. Doesn't matter. So Zabit called out Chad Mendez, and I'm all for it. Let's do that. I know in the past I've said that I thought Jose Aldo should have a trilogy fight with Chad Mendez. That's on the line. But Zabit, I like it. He's the number 15 featherweight right now. Calling out like the number 3 or something featherweight in the world, former title challenger, always toward the top of the division, Chad Mendez. I like it a lot. I say we give him the fight. Let's freaking do it. I saw that there were some people on social media saying, oh, I wonder who would win a fight between Zabit and Khabib. Okay, so Zabit is the number 15 featherweight in the world, and Khabib is the number 1 champion of the division up. And they're probably buddies. They're both from Dagestan. I don't get it. Anyway, let's keep on trucking down the card. Rob Amos says give Zabit to Gabriel Benitez. That could be fun, but I'd way rather just fuck it. Send him to the top of the division. The guy's coming in here as a minus 1,200 favorite. Why not just send him to the top? And even if he were to get destroyed by Chad Mendes, he's only 27 years old. I know he looks like an old werewolf because of his hair and how lazy his eyes are, but he's only 27 years old. He's this impressive. He's 27 years old, and he hasn't lost since 2013. He's getting better and better every time he's in the octagon. Even if he were to lose to Chad Mendes, he would be back in the future. Let's keep trucking down the card. Jimmy El Terra Rivera versus Jonh the Magician Dodson. This fight went to the judges, and Javier Escamilla says that if he's 27, then I'm 12. Oh, it's funny. No, he looks super old, but he's not. So during Rivera versus Dodson, the crowd was booing, and of course Cormier and Rogan were like, why are they booing? You know, maybe they were spoiled because we've had some really good fights tonight. And I don't like when the fans boo that much either. I went to UFC Lincoln a couple of weeks ago, and there was a guy in front of me that was booing Courtney Casey versus Angela Overkill Hill, and I told him to shut the fuck up. And he did. Luckily, it didn't cause any drama, but like he was the only person booing in the whole place, and I thought they were fighting their asses off. Why boo them? And Rivera and Dodson, I thought, you know, it was not the most entertaining performance by either guy that we've ever seen, but they were putting it out there. It was a decent fight, but it was probably the least entertaining fight of the night. One of the least entertaining fights of the night, if not the least. But what happened in that bout was Dodson, who the commentators always say he's got this huge speed advantage on his opponents. He's so much faster. But tonight, to me, it looked like they were rather equivalent to each other in the speed department. Dodson would come in with something, and Rivera would hit him with a check left hook over and over and over and over again. As the fight went on in the third round, Rivera started landing the right straight. Thanks for subscribing, Mustang GT. I appreciate it, buddy. Rivera started hitting Dodson with the straight rights. And that's pretty much it. Dodson would try something. He'd try to come in with a combo. Rivera would go away from it, hit him with a check left or a right straight. Occasionally, Jimmy Rivera would get Dodson with the inside low kick. Dodson was in the southpaw stance. Rivera was in the orthodox stance, and Rivera would throw that right leg at Dodson's right leg, and it was doing a little bit of damage to him. Maybe Dodson just didn't put himself out there enough. He wasn't risky enough, but he did have some decent success against Rivera. But Rivera ultimately got the decision, and I thought it was clear 30-27. I don't know where the 29-28 came from. What's next for Jimmy Rivera? I think it should be Aljamain the Funk Master Sterling, because Aljamain, after he defeated Cody Stamann via modified knee bar, back-mounted knee bar, he called out either the winner of Rivera versus Dodson or he wanted Dominic the Dominator Cruz. Because TJ Dillashaw recently he defended the belt against Cody Garbrandt, who he had taken it from in the fight previous to that, and TJ Dillashaw has a loss to Dominic Cruz, I think that either TJ Dillashaw should fight Marlon Moraes or Dominic Cruz, so I'm saving Dominic Cruz for perhaps that bout, and I wouldn't give Aljamain Sterling to Dominic Cruz, so I think Aljamain Sterling should fight Jimmy El Terra Rivera. That's some really easy matchmaking. What happened in the fight between Aljamain Sterling and Cody Stamann? There were a lot of fun grappling exchanges. Stamann would get Sterling down. Sterling would kick off and get back to his feet. Sterling would get Stamann down. Stamann would get back to his feet. But toward the end, near the finish of the fight, Stamann had Sterling down. Sterling got back to his feet. Stamann was maintaining some underhooks, but he went for a high knee on Sterling when Sterling was trying to spread his legs wide and get out of the takedown attempt from Stamann. Stamann went for the high knee. Sterling was able to circle out from it. He got his own double underhook and was going to go for the takedown, but Stamann tried to do a Granby roll out of it. Sterling followed him, ended up on the back of Stamann. Again, searched for that rear naked choke. Stamann postured up with his butt in the air, did like a downward-facing dog type position, and Sterling, once again, just like Magomed Sharipov, so long that he just grabbed the heel of Stamann to hit a knee bar attempt from back mount, and Stamann was on the ground, like kind of screaming in agony for quite a while after the knee bar happened. Incredible performance from Aljamain Sterling. Good call-outs and everything. I think that he should definitely fight Jimmy El Terra Rivera next. If you haven't already, guys, please give the video a thumbs up. It would really help me out a lot with the bosses. Again, this is my first time here. The normal post-fight show, the 6th round post-fight show with Zane Simon, it's still going to be around. You can find it on iTunes and SoundCloud. Just search for MMA Nation. But I need your thumbs up while I'm here. I would really appreciate it. So the first fight of the UFC pay-per-view portion for UFC 228, Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Nico the Hybrid Price. This was a quick one. Nico countered a right leg kick from Razak Al Hassan early with a right straight that might have briefly stunned Al Hassan. And then, like in the post-fight interview, Al Hassan said that when somebody tries to get in a war, like a fight in the phone booth, they're just brawling with him, he gets mad and he wants to make them pay for it. And he did that for sure. Razak caught Nico with an overhand right to shovel hook uppercut that stunned Price. Price was on wobbly legs. Razak came forward with what I call the John Lineker combination, the double hooks, and he had Price against the fence and he shut the lights out. It was a big left hook that put Price to sleep, but because he was against the fence, he was kind of propped up by it and he didn't fall to the ground. And then Al Hassan hit him with a right for good measure, and then Price did fall to the canvas. And the official result happened at just 43 seconds of round number 1. I don't know what's next for Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but I can tell you this much. Whatever is next for him, I'm going to be watching. The guy is super freaking exciting. He now has 3 finishes in a row, all in the very first round. The last one against Sabah Homasi at UFC 220 was a performance of the night. Will he get a performance of the night tonight at UFC 228? We'll have to find out. Matthew Caldwell, how come I'm doing shows here now instead of MMA Mania? I don't know. I just got moved. I got my channel. My channel is moved. So if you're just joining me, my name's Flyin Brian J. As you can see in the description box, I'm still going to be doing what I call production videos, the beer pairing and the top fights to watch over on MMA Mania. But I'm going to be doing post-fight shows, at least if I have any success here tonight, on MMANation.com. So again, please give the video a thumbs up. I'd like to stay here, make some new friends on MMA Nation. But let's keep talking about these fights. We already talked about Tatianna Suarez versus Carla Esparza, Aljamain Sterling versus Cody Stamann, Jeff Neal versus Frank the Crank Camacho. What a finish this was. Basically, Frank would move forward a lot and Neal would move back. And then as Neal got Camacho moving toward him, he would then shift and then come in at Camacho with the combination. And a lot of times, Neal threw a left high kick, a left round high kick that Camacho had been blocking. But quite a few times, it was left straights were landing on Camacho from Neal. It was just happening so quick. Camacho would move forward, left straight from Neal, hit him over and over and over and over again. After a while, Camacho did like the similar thing to what Robbie Lawler did against Rory MacDonald, where he just like roared like ah. And then now that actually happened after they got in a slight battle in the phone booth, because those left hands were hurting Camacho from Neal. He got Camacho backed up against the fence. He was trying to come in around the guard of Camacho. Camacho was defending himself pretty damn well against the fence. And Camacho tricked him into getting in a fight in a phone booth where they were kind of trading hooks. And Camacho almost got himself back in the fight. And that's when he let out the roar. But then a lead right hook to left cross from Neal dropped Camacho at the end of the first round. In the second round where the roar happened, Shortly after that, Neil landed a left high kick that the same high kick that Camacho had blocked like 3 times in the first round. Second round, Neil threw it, boom, just smoked him, and it sent, almost movie-like, sent Frank Camacho into the shadow realm, put him to sleep, just straight to sleep. I love watching Frank Camacho fight, but tonight he got really obliterated. What's next for Jeff Neal after this incredible performance where the official result was a head kick knockout at 123 of round number 2. He showed off some really good striking. He did defend some takedowns from Frank Camacho. And he was like the number 90 ranked welterweight on Tapology. And I thought he should fight the number 61 ranked welterweight on Tapology in Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. So Jeff Neal versus Danny Roberts. That's what I think should be next. What do you guys think? Let's try to be as courteous and respectful as possible in the comment section, my dudes. Rob Amon says Camacho should be sacked. I mean, Rob Amon's always here cutting people that lose. And now Frank Camacho is 1-3 in his UFC stint. He beat Damian Brown in a really exciting fight. It was fight of the night back in 2017, November. Then he lost to Drew Dober. Now he lost to Jeff Neal. I think they keep him around for another one because his first 3 fights in the UFC were all fight of the night. The only other person off the top of my head that I can think of that their first 3 fights in the UFC were fight of the night, Justin the fucking Highlight Gaethje. So you lose to Jeff Neal here, who maybe Jeff Neal could be a future contender. We don't know at this point. But I'd say they give Frank Camacho at least one more shot. Let's trudge on down this card. Darren Stewart versus Charles Byrd. This was crazy. Charles Byrd was doing a good job landing right hands on Darren Stewart, backing Darren Stewart up against the fence and hitting him. They would get in the clinch. Byrd was trying for a takedown. Byrd's last 2 victories were via rear naked choke. I'm sure he was trying to get Stewart to the ground to try to work for that rear naked choke. But he would end up just clinching Stewart against the fence. Maybe double underhooks, just getting him in there. And he would break the clinch with like 2 elbows, what I would call like right hook elbows in the clinch. And he hit Darren Stewart in the head with those a bunch of times. A whole bunch of times. He actually like stunned Darren Stewart. After Byrd had hurt Stewart in the second round, they got into a firefight near the fence. And that ended up being the demise of Byrd. Stewart put Byrd's back on the fence and went with his own hook elbows until Byrd went down. He got Byrd with so I wrote that down wrong. It was Stewart who hit Byrd with the right hook elbows. And he hit him with a bunch of them. And there was one that was just a really quick one. It was actually from a distance. It caught Byrd just on the tip of the temple, just right in the soft spot of the temple. And that put Byrd on wobbly legs, and he got the finish with elbows and punches, TKO. Hella impressive performance from Darren the Dentist Stewart. I don't know what's next for him. He's the number 62 welterweight in the world according to Tapology. Maybe somebody like Jordan Meehan could be next for him. That'd be a decent bout. They've had bouts recently. Let's just go with that for now, off the top of my head. Stewart, Rob Amos says Stewart versus Lombard Latis winner. I'm going to stick with what I said. Jordan Meehan. Let's move down the card. Diego Sanchez versus Craig White. We kind of talked about him already. Sanchez just ran at Craig White, got the takedown, was hitting him with some ground and pound. Craig White looked like a fish out of water off of his back. He did hit Diego Sanchez with some up kicks, but that's basically the only success that Craig White had. I don't know why we didn't see any. I don't know why there were no 10-8 rounds in that. Diego Sanchez, let's just look at some stats real fast. Outlanded Craig White in significant strikes, 46-18. In the third round, 21-3. Second round, 12-7. I guess. I don't know. It seemed like 10-8 because Diego had 4 minutes and 52 seconds of control time in the first round, 4:40 in the second round, and 4:46 in the third round. I don't know how you control somebody for 14 minutes and 18 seconds out of a 15-minute fight and don't get any 10-8s. Crazy. Rob Amon says, Craig White versus debutant. I don't care what's next for Craig White. He's 0-2 in the UFC now. Like I said earlier, we only brought him in here to fight Neil Magny on short notice in Europe. Before that, Jim Miller against Alex the Spartan White. Miller landed a couple of straight rights that put White on wobbly legs, and then Miller closed the show, turned back the clock with a rear naked choke. Jim hit a straight left to a lead, like a straight left, then a lead right to the body, and then another left up top that tumbled White, and then a couple of straight rights put him down. Got on the back with no hooks in, and got him with the rear naked choke. A possible WTF of the card, probably not though, but like I almost cried because Jim Miller said he was going to cry in the post-fight interview because he said he's been fighting Lyme disease since 2015, and he said to Joe Rogan that just recently has been able to train like a pro athlete should be able to train because he's just now getting out of the deep water from his Lyme disease. So amazing. He said that a tick bit him and he didn't know it back in 2015, and he felt like shit for like the last 3 years until recently. So fucking wow. Did Miller come into this as an underdog? I believe he did. Jim Miller, plus 155 underdog against Alex White. I don't know why I didn't bet that one either. I didn't know if I could trust Jim Miller. But Jim Miller, right? Look at this guy's resume as of late. It's not as bad as it would sound. He got knocked out by Dan Hooker. You know, Dan Hooker's on the rise. But he lost the decision to Dustin Poirier, where he brutalized Dustin's leg in the third round. Then he lost a decision to Anthony Pettis, who Anthony Pettis seemed to have turned back the clock lately, and Francisco Trinaldo. So maybe Alex White isn't, the highest level of competition that Miller's ever fought, but I think we really wrote him off here for not a lot of good reason. A very impressive performance from Jim Miller. Turning back the old clock. Before that, Irene Aldana versus Lucy Purilova. It's Irene Aldana versus Lucy Purilova. Aldana won via split decision, 29-28, 28-29, 29-28. This was a case of Aldana moving backward and hitting Purilova with a lot of good techniques and using lateral movement really well, but whenever Aldana would land something good, it would just like piss off Purilova, and Purilova would come harder. And Aldana did some decent things to keep range, push kicks to the face. Purilova was pretty bloody by the end of this thing. It was a tight battle, close decision. I think it was a decent win for Irene Aldana. And I think Lucy Purilova's, it's only her second loss in the UFC. She's 2-2 now. She'll stick around. I like watching her fights just because of her, like, I'm a mean motherfucker attitude. And that was a really, really exciting fight. I told you guys in the pre-fight show that this one, I was looking forward to this one because they're both strikers. They both hit pretty hard. Irene Aldana is 9-4 now, 13 total fights. She has knockout victories in 5 of them, and 2 of them via submission. Only 2 of her wins are via decision. And those are her last 2 wins in the UFC. So that's just crazy. She's a pretty exciting fighter, hits pretty hard. I don't know what's next for her. Does it really matter? No. Before that, Jared Brooks versus Roberto Sanchez. This was a split decision that I thought clearly was Jared Brooks' fight to win. Like, this should have been scored 29-28 for him, just without issue. First round, Roberto Sanchez got in on Jared Brooks, and Jared Brooks went for a knee bar or a heel hook and then to a knee bar. Then he was able to get back to his feet, but I think that he lost the first round based on how long Roberto Sanchez had him on his back. Between rounds 1 and 2, Jared Brooks' corner told him, hey, let's go for our own takedowns, but let's box him up a little bit and then go for the takedown. And I can't remember off the top of my head. I could check my notes. But Oh, yeah, between the second and third round, Justin Scoggins, who was in the corner of Jared Brooks, said to box for a bit and then go for a takedown. If you box him, it'll get him not thinking about the takedown defense. And what Jared Brooks did to box him up, went for a spinning back fist that really fucking hit Sanchez hard. And then Sanchez tried to do his own spinning back fist rebuttal. Jared Brooks, of course, got in on those hips, got the takedown. A decent ground and pound, but mostly it was just control. Jared Brooks controlled Sanchez mostly. That's what he mostly did to get the victory. Jared Brooks now, he has losses to Jose Shorty Torres, where he knocked himself out. He was looking fucking great for a minute and a half before he finished himself. And before that, he lost a split decision to Davison Figueiredo. And Joe Rogan said he thought that Brooks could have got the nod against Figueiredo. And I think that Figueiredo's a future title challenger. So Brooks is an exciting fighter. It was a fun fight to watch, even though he just controlled Sanchez mostly in the top position for the majority of that fight. But I think we can expect decent things from him in the future. He's a tiny guy. He might even be too small for the flyweight division, which seems crazy. But I'm excited to watch what's next for him. What's next for him exactly, you ask? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Let's talk about our post-fight bonuses. So guys, my question to you is, what post-fight bonuses would you give? First, let's talk about the fight of the night. We're going to give our grades, our bonuses, and then I'm going to look at Twitter and get the real ones for you guys. So fight of the night, in my opinion, would probably go to... you know what? I'm not giving a fight of the night, actually. Matthew Caldwell says fight of the night to Irene and Lucy Purilova. Perhaps that could be it. Glades Villains says the same thing. Mr. Hyde says the same thing. So if we're giving a fight of the night, let's give it to Irene Aldana and Lucy Purilova. So congratulations. They get no money from us, but at least they get our recognition. Now let's go over performance bonuses. This is going to be hard because we got Woodley, Darce choke over Till. Andrade, walk-off knockout over Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Zabit with a back-mounted knee bar. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, knockout with a big left hook at 43 seconds. Tatianna Suarez, finishing the former champion with ground and pound. Aljamain Sterling, another back-mounted knee bar. Jeff Neal, freaking highlight reel for the century head kick over Frank Camacho. Darren Stewart over Charles Byrd. In the rear naked choke from Jim Miller over Alex White. All are worthy of a little extra money because they were so impressive, and they contributed to me having a 5 out of 5 love of this night. It was such a good night of fights. I'm so glad that I watched it, and I might watch it over again. I purchased the pay-per-view. I might watch it. Just watch it back. Javier Escamilla says Jeff Neal gets a performance bonus. Mr. Hyde says Al Hassan and Neal. Mara Oka says Andrade with the one-punch KO. Javier Glades Villain says Suarez and Neal. Rob Amon says knockout of the night to Andrade. Submission to Woodley. Matthew Caldwell says Woodley and Neal. It's so tough, right, guys? There's so many of them. And I know that a lot of you, this is your first time ever hanging out with me, but I always give out $250,000 because I'm not actually giving them any money, where the UFC only gives out $200. So I feel like I'm doing like a little bit of a solid. Tyron Woodley, I think that if you get a submission, your first ever submission in the UFC, in the main event, in a title fight, after you've been in the UFC for a super long time, as an underdog, you get an extra 50 G. So Tyron Woodley's getting one for me. Jessica Andrade, Mark Hunt style of walk-off knockouts don't happen in the women's divisions. They like, if in your mind's eye, they don't happen at women's strawweight, but it freaking happened. So I think Bate Estaca Andrade gets an extra 50,000. And then with my other $50,000 that I've got left in my bank, I'm giving 25,000 to Zabit Magomed Sharipov and 25,000 to Aljamain the Funkmaster Sterling for their back-mounted knee bars. If those don't get any recognition from Dana White tonight, or any extra dollars from the UFC or the WME IMG machine, they really should. It'd be a travesty. So I'm giving 25,000 each of those guys, and there's my $200,000. Let's check the Twitter machine and see what the real bonuses were, if we can. I probably talked way too fast tonight, my dudes. I promise in the future I will be calmer during the post-fight show. This is my first time on this channel. Little nervous about it. I'm coming from MMA Mania, and we'd have like 15 viewers. We've got 238 right now, so it's, you know, it's kind of a big deal for me. So thank you for sticking around with me. Thanks again for the thumbs up on the video. That'll help me out. The bosses might like that. I won't look like such a poop head failure. But okay, the official bonuses were Fight of the Night. Irene Aldana versus Lucy Purilova. Performance bonuses go to Woodley and Jessica Bate Astaca Andrade. So we got it. We got them. Well, that's what we said. But, like I said, there needs to be a little extra something in the pockets of Zabit Magomed Sharipov and Aljamain the Funkmaster Sterling, because only one knee bar from back mount had ever been done in the UFC before tonight, and those guys did them on the same motherfucking card. So that's it. That basically does it for this post-fight show. Thanks, Matthew Caldwell and Rob Amon. Hopefully I'll make some new friends as well. Mar Oka says, Christ, what a card. I know! Guardian Angel says, whoa, I just swore. Yes, I fucking did. Yeah, Christ, what a card. Man, what a night of fights. I don't have much more to say about this fight card, so I'll probably call the show over. We'll just end it. But I want to stick around and talk to you guys a little bit more, because I'm so jazzed about this fight card. Also, I usually drink beer during my post-fight shows, and I haven't had a single drink of beer today because I wanted to be on point for this post-fight show. First time being on this channel, you know, like I said, I wanted to be have my poop in a group. But I'm gonna take a drink right now. Let's talk about maybe, yeah, alcoholic, says Guardian Angel. Indeed. I don't mean to alienate anybody by talking to Matthew and Rob. I've just recognized them. Javier Escamilla says, Fook to Mayweathers. Oh, thanks for subscribing, Javier. I didn't notice. Was that a Modelo? This is a homebrewed pumpkin spiced ale that I made. I homebrew. Pedro Tavares, where is Zane Simon? So, yeah. The classic MMA Nation shows like the 6-round post-fight show, MMA Vivisection, Care Don't Care, If I Did It, they're all still going to be available on SoundCloud and iTunes. So search for MMA Nation on SoundCloud and iTunes. I think I linked it in the description box below, I believe, so you can find those there. But for the time being, at least for today, we're trying out having me, Flyin Brian J, my logo's right here, do the post-fight show on MMANation.com. So thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate it. Let's talk about what's next. The next event is UFC Fight Night 136, happening on September 15th from the Olympic Sky Stadium in Moscow, Russia. Main evented by Mark the Super Samoan Hunt versus Aleksei Oleinik. Co-main event is Yann Blagojevich versus Nikita Krilov. Nikita Krilov making his return to the UFC after he left. He lost via submission guillotine choke to Misha Surkunov back at UFC 206. And since that time, he's won 4 fights, all via stoppage. One over Emmanuel Newton, the former Bellator light heavyweight champion of the world, and then against Fabio Maldonado. Both of those knockout victories. I'm super excited to have Nikita Krilov back. This entire night of fights happens on UFC Fight Pass. I don't know what time it starts. I have to request that day off, so I won't be here for a post-fight show for that, so that kind of sucks. Because my cousin's getting married that day. The fights start at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 a.m. Pacific Time. I actually could probably do a post-fight show. I don't know what my obligations are that day. I know I have to do something in her wedding, but we'll play it by ear. Lucky Patrick, who the fuck is this guy? Where are the usual guys? Again, Lucky Patrick, the 6th round post-fight show with Zane Simon and Eddie Mercado's often his guest are still happening. I think they're going to do them on Bloody Elbow Live, I think. Don't quote me on that, but they will still be available on SoundCloud and iTunes. So search for MMA Nation on SoundCloud and iTunes, and you can get the 6th round post-fight show. I think they'll be posting it on Monday mornings. They're going to do the show on Sunday, post it on Monday. For the time being, MMANation.com is trying out having this ugly son of a gun, Flyin Brian J, do the post-fight show here. So, thank you. Yeah, if you haven't already, please give the video a thumbs up. It'll make my bosses think that you didn't hate me on my first time being here. I'm going to look into getting this show, where you guys are my co-host, on as a podcast as well. I don't know if they're going to allow me, so that's what we're going to do, though. Loser says Bloody Elbow sounds like severe anal porn. Ugh. I don't know how that is, but that's weird, buddy. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? We could talk about Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov versus the notorious Conor McGregor at UFC 229, October the 6th at the T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada, Las Vegas metropolitan area. Speaking of which, we talked about Tatianna Suarez putting on a Khabib-style wrestling clinic against Carla the Cookie Monster Esparza. Tatianna Suarez does not have a nickname as of right now, at least according to UFC.com. I have 2 options for her. Tatianna Suarez, her corner, referred to her as Tot a whole bunch of times. So I was thinking we could do Tater Tot Tatianna Suarez. So Tater Tot Tatianna. Or her nickname could be the Eagle. And I know that you shouldn't copy somebody else's nickname, but she is so close to Khabib Nurmagomedov in her style of attack and in the fact that nobody can stop her attack. They see it, they see it, they see it. They train 3 months for it, and they still can't stop it. She does the wrist control behind the back while she punches your face through the canvas. I think the Eagle is a fitting nickname for Tatianna Suarez. People this week were calling her the female Nurmagomedov or whatever, the female Khabib. But, meh. I think we should go with, Mr. Hyde says the Falcon. No, thank you. Yeah, I think Tatianna Suarez could be called the Eagle. Who do you guys think is going to win between Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor? The odds have the notorious Conor McGregor as a plus 155 underdog, and the money line on Nurmagomedov to get the victory is minus 165. Fight does not go to the judges is minus 450. If you don't know the odds, if you aren't familiar with how odds work, if it's minus 450, that would mean it would take $4.50 to win $1, or $45 to win $10, or $450 to win $100. That's how it works. And fight doesn't go to a decision, yeah. And fight does go to a decision is plus 330. What that means is you can bet $1 on that, and if that happens, if it does go to the judges, you win $3.30 or $10.33. You know, $100, $330. You get the picture, right? There you go. Maroka says Khabib time. Rob Amon says Khabib. Conor has not fared well against grapplers. Loser says if Tatianna, she could be the Mexican Mauler. Wepa73 says Khabib is another hype fight. Conor is a heat hunter. Khabib will get knocked out easy. This shit reminds me of Tyson in the 1980s. Boring fights. I couldn't disagree with you more, but I appreciate you being here and giving me your take on it, my friend. Matthew Caldwell. Oh, Matthew Caldwell asks, how did putting one unit on all the underdogs go tonight? So in the past, at the beginning of this year, the first 6 months of the year, I would put one unit on every single underdog to see if it would win. But I was doing that for a while, and it was not faring well. It started losing like 9 units a time. $9 and $9, losing $9, losing $9, losing $9. And I was like, I don't want to track that anymore. So what I have been doing, and you can look at my record on betmma.tips/Flyin Brian J, and you can see at the peak at the bottom on my track record, I got down to as far as minus 96.9 units. That's terrible. What I have been doing since that time is following a guy on Twitter named at MMA Vegas Pete, and also a guy that his Twitter handle is at MMA LOTN, or MMA Lock of the Night. I've been following those two guys. So since I was minus 96.9 units, I've been following those two, and I'm back to minus 18.94 units. So I'm still negative. I'm still in the red, in the bad area. But following those two guys alone has got me back to almost even money. And I think that there, if you want to gamble on fights, you want free bets, you probably should be following those two men. I actually picked Conor McGregor via knockout. I just think that'd be so fun to see. Khabib comes in there, doesn't have great defensive with his striking, and he eats the first left hand, similar to Conor versus Jose Aldo, and he goes to sleep. I think that the fucking world would almost explode if that happened. Because the alternative is Khabib taking him down and just mauling him, which would be exciting as well. There's a ton of Conor McGregor haters that would be just lively on social media and stuff, and that could be fun. But I just think that if McGregor exploded Nurmagomedov's head, not hypothetically, figuratively, the MMA world would goddamn explode. Like Matthew says, I have no idea what is going to happen. No idea. That's why, like Conor McGregor, every single time he's been in the octagon, or the majority of the times, we can just look. I'll click on him. So against Eddie Alvarez, Conor was like a 2-to-1 favorite. Against Nate Diaz, he was a favorite. Against Nate Diaz again, he was a favorite. Against Jose Aldo, he was a favorite. Against Mendez, he was a favorite. Against Seaver, favorite. Conor McGregor was the underdog to Dustin Poirier. Wow. But so Conor McGregor's always the favorite. But that's because the betting public they know who he is. I have a friend that I've been taking to fights lately. He doesn't know anything about any fighter. He doesn't know who John Jones is, but he knows who Conor fucking McGregor is. So the betting public puts their money on Conor McGregor. But it just feels like a lot of the time people discount his abilities. They always just think he's just a mouth. He's just hype. But then he goes out there and he sleeps Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. He embarrassed Eddie Alvarez. I clearly scored the second fight against Nate Diaz for him, but he got his ass beat by Nate Diaz in the first fight. But people discounted Conor McGregor against Chad Mendes because Chad has some really good takedowns, but Conor whooped his ass. I think that he's often overlooked. I don't think he's overhyped. People say he's overhyped. Maybe he's too well known for the hardcore fans. Don't actually want mixed martial arts to become a mainstream sport. This is our niche. It's our weird thing that we do in our free time, and we don't want like everybody else to be a part of it. And Conor McGregor is known by everybody, so that like there's a little bit of dislike for him because he's so well known. He's the popular kid, and we're jealous that maybe our favorite fighter isn't the popular kid or whatever. But I don't think he's overhyped. I mean, he goes out there and he performs at a really high level. He's a really good fighter. The embarrassment that he put on Eddie Alvarez was like jaw-dropping to me. And I'm not saying that I'm a Conor McGregor fan. I love Nurmagomedov as well. I just think that sometimes we just hate on Conor McGregor too much because he's the popular kid, essentially. Mara Oka says, I have Khabib winning, but a little nervous for him. McGregor's a dangerous man. Yes, he is. I don't think, like, Grand Swing Sports says Nate Diaz worked Conor McGregor in the second fight. I don't want to talk about that fight too much. We shouldn't talk about the history of Conor McGregor too much while we're here, but I mean, shit. Conor knocked Nate down like 3 times in that fight. So don't tell me, you can't say that Nate Diaz worked him over. Did Nate drop Conor in the second fight? No. Did Conor get tired as fuck? Yeah. But Conor dropped Nate multiple times. And I think, this is just a theory, if that fight took place at 155 pounds rather than 170 pounds, Conor would be more likely to knock Nate Diaz out. Because with that extra water weight, you got more water and more protection in your brain when you're fighting at 170 than 155 for Nate. I think it'd be easier to hit the off switch for Conor at 155 pounds. Where Conor, his left hand is rather fast. And when he's not carrying as much weight, this hand could be faster. I don't know. It's just a theory. Yeah, he did turn his back and run a lot of times, yeah. Anyway, I love you, Grand Swing Sport. We shouldn't talk about this anymore. We'll get grumpy at each other. But the rest of UFC 229 is really good as well. Tony Ferguson versus Anthony Showtime Pettis as the co-main event. I think that's there just in case Nurmagomedov or McGregor get taken out for some reason. You could just, if Nurmagomedov comes out for some reason, you just slide Ferguson right in to fight McGregor. Maybe if McGregor falls out, you put Ferguson in, and we actually finally get to see Nurmagomedov versus Ferguson. Ferguson versus Pettis is a fun fight as well. Before that, OSP versus Dominic Reyes. I think that Reyes is probably going to sleep St. Peru, but who knows. Derek Lewis versus Alexander Volkov. That's fun. Michelle Watterson versus Felice Herrig. It's a weird one to open the pay-per-view, but I'm still excited about that. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Jose Alberto Quinones. It could be fun. Sergio Pettis versus Ducier Formiga. Scott Holtzman versus Alan Patrick. I love Alan Patrick. Fun night of fights. Aspen Ladd versus Tanya Evinger. It's cool. Gray Maynard versus Nick Lenz. It's decent. But, Mr. Hyde, you also have to think that Conor was scheduled to fight a striker in Jose Aldo, and then on 10 days' notice, he had Mendez, a wrestler. So yes, Mendez did come off the couch, but Conor wasn't preparing for a wrestler when he had that bout. It's just things are weird in mixed martial arts. Anyway, let's call it a day. Let's call it a show. We've talked too long. Maybe. Please give the video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Thanks for sticking around and talking to me so long after we got done talking about UFC 228, which was a freaking phenomenal night of fights. I think everybody's giving it a 5 out of 5. Yeah, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate you. Follow me on Twitter at Flyin Brian J, on Facebook at Flyin Brian Show. Subscribe to MMA Nation on SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. Search for MMA Nation. And the 6-round post-fight show, If I Did It, MMA Vivisection, Care Don't Care preview, all of that stuff is going to be over on the podcast feed. So thanks again for joining me, guys, and I'll see you later. Namaste.